Let's be honest, have you ever opened the charts and you was just flat out confused, not knowing what you're looking for, what to do, or even the time frames you're actually supposed to be using to break down the market? A lot of traders do it. They tend to overcomplicate things, jumping from time frame to time frame, and then end up guessing instead of actually executing in the market. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I approach the market step by step, finding the highest probability setups using a simple, structured approach. There's no guessing, there's no confusion. It's a clear system that you can apply every single time you step into the charts. When I'm looking for my time frames to be in sync, I like the daily and the 4-hour both to be in sync. This allows me to see the overall flow to market. And then say if the daily and the 4-hour aren't in sync, I then look for the 4-hour and a 1-hour to be in sync, because this allows me to take a counter trend opportunity. So the flow to market is basically using my highest time frames, the daily and the 4-hour, to go with the overall flow to market. For instance, say if the daily time frame is trending in this bullish trend and we recently performed a break of structure around here. I know I recently just broke out of the ceiling, and now I'm looking for price to come back down to retest that ceiling as newfound support to continue to go higher. Which, if I just drag this off towards the right a little bit, what this will look like on the 4-hour time frame, since we know each time frame has different structure, on the 4-hour time frame, we might form more structure like so, but price is still going to be doing that same thing. We're performing the break of structure and we're looking for the retest of this recent zone. So as I'm looking for the break and retest to happen on the daily time frame, I'm also allowing the 4-hour time frame to have the break and retest. This just allows me to have both time frames perform the break and retest before we have the continuation. For example, I'm on a trampoline. And as I'm on this trampoline, I have a ceiling over my head. As you're jumping, you hit the ceiling. Once you break through that ceiling, you're looking to come back down to use this recent ceiling as newfound support to then continue to go higher. I want to see that take place on each given time frame, meaning if the daily time frame has performed the break and retest, but the 4-hour time frame looks something like this, it's not valid and I'm not ready to take this trade, because easily price can on the daily have this continuation move towards the upside, but what this will look like on the 4-hour time frame is something like this, showing me invalid structure and basically not leaving me with an opportunity. So instead, what I want to see is I want to see price have the break and retest of its own structure as well, not around here, because this portion will be the daily break and retest, where the 4-hour break and retest takes place is around here. Why is that? Because on the 4-hour time frame, we have more structure inside of this overall bullish trend. I like to see the clean break and retest. If I'm waiting for price to perform the break and retest around here on the 4-hour, it's not that clean, because I still see structure inside of my overall bullish move that has not performed any type of rejection or tap back into. Therefore, since I know that this is the last structure inside of my bullish move, I want to see price pull back down towards this last structure and then perform this continuation towards the upside, which is going to allow the daily time frame to perform the break and retest and might go a little bit deeper, since we know we're going towards this 4-hour zone. And as the daily has the break and retest, this will allow the 4-hour time frame to perform the break and retest as well. And then as I'm looking for my entry, I always say I want to enter above my daily zone, meaning if price is moving but we don't find an entry above this zone, you don't enter, because price can easily find rejection and continue to fall towards the downside. But the moment price gets back above, this is when you will find your entry, since we're above an area of resistance on both given time frames, and then we can see price continue its move back towards the upside. So I'm about to show you what this is going to look like on the charts. That way you have a idea of what it is that you're looking for when you go into the market. So give me just a second. So right here you can see on Euro AUD, I'm starting on the daily time frame. You always start on the daily because the daily is giving your overall
will give you the overall direction of the market. So on the daily time frame, I see that price was in this bullish trend. We then had this continuation breakout that happened around here. What can I identify? Well, I see that my higher low on the daily time frame is around here. I always recommend that you mark off your daily structures, your 4-hour structure, and your 1-hour structure. That way you know exactly where you're at in the market as you drop down towards these time frames. So on the daily time frame, I see that this is the daily break of structure. I'm going to mark it off as daily since I know that this is the break of structure that occurred. And right now I'm looking for price to pull back towards this zone on the daily time frame. Okay, well, this is good. I identify that the daily is bullish. I identify my recent break of structure, and I identify where I'm looking for price to pull back to. Next step before the retracement happens is to identify if the 4-hour is in sync. This is when I would drop towards a 4-hour time frame. And on this 4-hour time frame, I would do the exact same thing. So like you know, this is my daily higher low. This is my daily break of structure. So I still know where I'm at in the market as I'm dropping down towards these lower time frames. On the 4-hour, I also see that price was in this bullish trend where we first had the break of structure happen here. We see price have this push. We then see price have the pullback in the market. And then we see the next continuation back towards the upside. What can I identify? Well, I can identify now that my 4-hour higher low will be around here. Let's mark this off as the 4-hour higher low. Let's make it blue. We see that the 4-hour higher low happened around here, and then we can mark this off as the 4-hour break of structure. Let me drag it off, 4-hour break of structure. So now, as I identified this on the 4-hour time frame, I see that the 4-hour is also in this bullish trend. I see that the 4-hour has also performed the recent break of structure that's in the same area. In the same area the daily has performed this break of structure. You can see the daily here, and you can see the 4-hour structure being here. Both time frames being in sync since we are in the vicinity of each other. This is good. So now, as I'm expecting price on the 4-hour to pull back down towards the last structure break being around here, I can actually delete this. As I'm looking for price to pull back down here on the 4-hour, on the daily time frame, this will allow the daily time frame to pull back down towards this recent break of structure as well. So as I fast forward, look what takes place. We see how the 4-hour is now initiating a pullback in the market. As soon as price taps back into on the 4-hour time frame, we see the rejection towards the recent break of structure. And as we perform the break and retest on the 4-hour, we see the daily time frame also perform the break and retest. Like I said, it will allow the daily time frame to have the retest of structure, since I know that the 4-hour time frame has to have the retest of its own structure. Now we see both given time frames, the 4-hour and the daily time frame, perform the break and retest. Both time frames being in sync, both time frames again being in this bullish market. So after we identified that, the next step is to what? Make sure that price gets back above your zone, or make sure price is maintaining back above your area of resistance that's found on the daily time frame. Once we can identify that, we can find our entry. So on the daily time frame, which is around here, we see that we are hovering above that daily structure, which is good. And on the daily, if we go to it, we see that price is still hovering above, which is good. This now allows us to get our entry, which the entry is simply a bullish engulfing. That's a different video. Actually, I recorded that video already. Go check out the 3-step entry. As we look for the bullish engulfing, we still see price finding rejection towards my 4-hour break of structure and then towards that daily zone. As you can see right here, still maintaining above, because again, both time frames are in sync, still doing the same thing, being in a bullish trend, but also performing the retest of the recent ceiling and now treating it as support. Now we see this bullish engulfing get established, where we have this bullish candle engulfing past that previous bearish candle. You find your entry like so, stop loss being just below, and I'm targeting my recent highs. Again, I'm a break and retest trader, so the moment price can give me the break of my resistance, the retest of newfound support, where will be my targets? Well, it's going to be these new highs that price created, because now if price can have this push back towards this recent high, we have two things that can happen. We can either see price reject and then fall back towards the downside, or price break through and continue to go higher to go create new highs, since we're going with the flow of the market. So your first take profit is going to be around here, but you can see how you're only getting back a 1 RR on this trade. I always look to double my risk, so I simply would adjust this to a 1 to 2 so I can get back double of what I'm risking. Now if you just fast forward the chart, you can see how price is still respecting this area of support, and now you see how price is slowly moving in our direction. We've already hit our take profit 1 if your take profit is still set up at these highs. If you are okay with a 1-to-1, you would have won this trade, but like I said, I look to double my risk, so I'm still looking for price to push towards a 1 to 2. And then what happens, price goes directly towards targets with no problem, creating new highs, as you all can see right here. Breaking past this high, we then had the retest and then the continuation to go higher, giving us more than what we asked for, around a 1 to 3 risk reward in return. So this is how I sync the 4-hour and the daily. I allow the 4-hour time frame to perform the break and retest, which is going to allow the daily time frame to perform the break and retest. And the only thing I have to do is make sure we're still maintaining above my daily zone, which again is the highest time frame structure, and the highest time frame always outweighs the lower time frames. So as long as price is maintaining above a strong area of resistance and support on the daily and as well on the 4-hour time frame, I can then look for that entry signal being at bullish engulfing, stops being just below my daily structure point, and then target my 4-hour highs. Why not target your daily highs? Well, I look to target the 4-hour highs because since this is the time frame that I'm also looking for the break and retest to get established on, and it's the last time frame I'm waiting for the break and retest to get established on, I want to target these highs because if I can hit those highs, I know that price is going to hit the daily highs since we are in sync with one another. So I'm not too worried about targeting the daily structure point. I would rather target my 4-hour structure point since, again, like I said, it's the last time frame I'm looking for the break and retest to get established on. Next is, how do I identify the counter trend 4-hour and the 1-hour? Well, it's the same exact thing as the daily and the 4-hour, but instead of us looking at the daily time frame for that added confluence, we look at the daily time frame as our guide. What do I mean? Well, say if for instance that the daily time frame is in this bullish trend, right? And as price is in this bullish trend, we see price perform the break of structure, breaking past this resistance level, and we will obviously be looking for price to pull back down towards this zone to have the retest to go higher. But instead of that happening, price breaks below that zone. Like we know, when we're below, we're treating this area as resistance. So instead of me looking for buys back towards the upside, I will be looking for price to pull back towards this zone, treat it as resistance, so I can possibly or potentially look for sales back towards the downside. But what would that look like on the 4-hour and the 1-hour? Well, on the 4-hour time frame, instead of price being in this bullish trend, we would see price on the 4-hour time frame go from this bullish to bearish trend due to us not being in sync with the daily time frame. So as price is having this push back underneath the daily area of interest, the 4-hour time frame is going to have that break of structure, breaking past this higher low to go now in a bearish trend to get back underneath that zone, which is going to allow daily and the 4-hour time frame to be out of sync. If I know that the daily and the 4-hour aren't in sync, my last time frame I'm looking for is the 4-hour and the 1-hour to be in sync. On the 1-hour time frame, price is going to look something like this. So now this is what we will be looking like in the market. I can actually mark it off so we know what's what. We have the daily time frame, we have the 4-hour time frame, and we have the 1-hour time frame. Each given time frame is going to have different structure. So the moment price on the daily gives us a break back underneath the zone, this is going to allow the 4-hour structure to go from a bullish to bearish trend, breaking past that same daily zone, but also putting us out of sync with the daily time frame. The daily will be bullish, the 4-hour would be bearish. So since I know that the daily and the 4-hour aren't in sync, I will then be looking for the 4-hour and a 1-hour to be in sync to give me more confluence to take a sell back towards the downside. So on a 1-hour time frame, I would see that price is also in this bearish trend, now being in sync with the 4-hour time frame. So now as price has this retest on the 4-hour time frame, it will also allow the 1-hour time frame to have the retest of this recent break of structure. Like we see, both time frames now performing the break and retest of its own given structure. On the daily time frame, this will also allow the daily to form some type of pullback rejection towards this recent area of resistance. And then as we have the retest of those zones, we just make sure we stay below this area of resistance since it was found on the daily time frame being our major zone. Once we can identify that, we will then look to take price back towards the downside like so. Let me show you what this looks like in the market. That way you know exactly what to expect when we are looking to catch these counter trend scenarios. Give me just a second. Okay, so on this daily time frame, I see that price was in this bearish trend that then flipped bullish due to the breakout of this higher low. And then we see price have this pullback in the market. Well, if we drag this so you'll be able to identify what's going on, we can see that the recent break of structure on the daily time frame happens to be here. We see that our new higher low is around here on the daily, and we see that our higher high is around here on this daily time frame. So we see that the daily time frame is bullish, but instead of us having a break and retest of this recent structure break, we see price now break back below this area of interest that recently treated it as resistance when we're below. So what I will be anticipating is for price to break, have the retest of resistance, and then continue to drop towards the downside. So I see that price on the daily is bullish, and I see that price is now back underneath our area of interest. So we mark that off on the daily time frame. As soon as price had this closure, let me go to something right there. So as soon as price had this closure back below my zone, this is when I went towards the 4-hour. On the 4-hour time frame, you can see based off of the daily having a closure back below that zone, this allowed the 4-hour time frame to go from this bullish to then bearish trend breaking out of these lower lows. We see that bullish to bearish flip. So now we identify that the recent break of structure on the 4-hour time frame happens to be here, right? Cool. I see that the 4-hour time frame is bearish. I see that the daily time frame is bullish. I know that I'm not in a Florida market setup because my daily and my 4-hour are not in sync. This is going to be a possible counter trend scenario where the daily and the 4-hour aren't in sync. So I'm looking for the 4-hour and the 1-hour to be in sync. So as I identify that the daily is bullish, the 4-hour is bearish, now I'm looking for what? The 1-hour time frame to be in sync with this 4-hour structure. So as I drop towards the 1-hour, we see clear as day that we are in sync. We see that once upon a time, price was in this bullish trend on the daily time frame. Price then performed the breakout of these lows, going from bullish to bearish. We then went back bullish, and then we went back in a bearish trend, breaking out of these higher lows. The moment we had this break of structure is the moment I was able to now identify that the 1-hour time frame is bearish and the 4-hour time frame is bearish. We see that the 4-hour break of structure occurred around here. If I go back towards the 1-hour, I can identify that the 1-hour break of structure occurred around here. You can obviously see clear as day that the 1-hour and the 4-hour are in sync with both structure breaks being in the same exact area. And on top of that, where are we at? We're at this daily structure as well. So now we see that the 4-hour and the 1-hour are in sync. We see that that's also taking place at our daily structure zone, which is also good. So now what am I waiting on to happen? Well, I'm now just looking for this 1-hour time frame to have the pullback towards the recent break of structure, which is going to allow the 4-hour time frame to have the pullback towards its own recent break of structure, and it's going to allow the daily time frame to have that wick pullback with the rejection towards the daily structure as well. So as we fast forward, let's see what takes place. Boom. The moment price taps back into our recent breaker structure on the 1 hour, we see that this has allowed the 4 hour to perform the break and retest as well. And we see how this allowed the daily time frame to perform the wick pullback with the rejection towards all three zones. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for my entry on my 1 hour time frame. Since this was the last time frame, I was looking for the break and retest to take place. We have the break and retest, and we have this bearish engulfing. You could have found your entry, stops be above, your targets being these lows, and targeting that 1 to 2. And then look what took place right after. Price would have came back, still respecting your break of structure. You can see how when price had this pullback, not only did we not close above, but we formed 3 to 4 rejections towards your 1 hour zone, your 4 hour zone, and as well as I can't zoom out far enough, and as well as the daily break of structure or the daily area of interest, forming another wick rejection towards that zone. So that is a great sign. And then price ends up falling towards targets with no problem after the third tap back into our zone. But this is how I would look to sync my time frames in order to capitalize on my position. If the daily and the 4 hour time frames are in sync, I'm looking for a flow to market trade, going with the overall flow of the market. But if the daily and the 4 hour time frame aren't in sync, I'm looking for a counter trend opportunity where the overall direction might be bullish, but we're getting back underneath our zone where the 4 hour and the 1 hour are showing me selling opportunities, which then I can capitalize on a counter trend trade going against the overall direction of the market. This is how I sync my time frames to capitalize on my position, and how you can too. Use what I'm showing you. If you like it, continue to use it. I break this down throughout my entire YouTube. So if you like it, go check out more videos on counter trend opportunities. And I have a Discord as well. So if you want to hop in the Discord, work with me one-on-one and many other people as well, link will be in the description. This is all for this video, and I'm going to catch y'all in the next one. Deuces.